the second act of Jedi Outcast. Nar Shaddaa, what a great planet! I love this particular cinematic, by the way. It's a great homage to one of the first shots in the first Jedi Knight. Now remember, in Jedi Outcast we just got our saber. And now the game gives us the perfect opportunity to try it out. With this being a perfectly round room with a lower and upper level, this puts you right in the frying pan. This is what the whole game has been leading up to. Much like the first act, the level design is consistent. Nar Shaddaa is quite big and have areas that both requires a lightsaber and other weapons. Usually a sniper is required, at least in these open areas. You really need to explore and figure out your best approach here. Unlike in Jedi Academy where there's no point in big empty areas. Eventually you run into Rilo Baruch. And if you think it's weird when Jaden is talking as a Rodian, you should listen to this.
Not really. Any last words?
What's a respectable gangster like you doing mixed up with a remnant slime like Dasan?
Making money, of course.
Interesting choice of voice actor. Also, who the fuck is teaching Rodians Galactic Basic? Most, if not all, Rodians before this spoke Huttese. Oh well, after looking for Rilo all over Nar Shaddaa's great constructed levels, you run into yet another familiar face. Lando Calrissian. And he's even voiced by Billy D. Williams.
Over the past few weeks, a mineral smuggling ring has infiltrated the Cloud City on Bespin. Real slick group, too.
Cloud City has been overrun by the remnant, and Lando thought it would be a good idea to talk to a crime lord about it. Though it turns out that the crime lord is actually the one who's transporting them crystals with his garbage haulers. Luckily, Lando somehow has a password to the area that unlocks his cell.
Yeah, it's Ruby Bleals.
I could go for one of those.
So after freeing him, you plan to escape and save the Cloud City on Bespin. Allegedly, the sun is also there, which grinds Kyle's gears. But Rilo's crime syndicate are all around Lando's ship. So you first have to take care of those guys, and then Lando makes you fill his ship with gas. What a yerk. And then Rilo tries to stop you from taking off by a turret. Same kind of turret that destroyed a ATST and ion cannons. Yeah, I bet my money on the green guy.
That'll work.
Well, I be damned. After that, Kyle and Lando have quite the awesome chit-chat on the way to Bespin.
Then we'll catch him later. Getting Dasan isn't as important as clearing the city.
Jan's dead, Lando. Dasan and his minion killed her.
Greif, I'm sorry, Kyle.
I could seriously listen to these guys talk for hours. So then you get to Bespin and try to help out Bespin cops with defeating both Rilo's crime syndicate and stormtroopers. That's a great mix of enemies. Now Bespin and Nar Shaddaa are my two favorite planets in this game. They're large and really made for you to have fun with your saber, as well as switching it up with moments where you have to use other weapons. And some moments where you have to think things through. And at Bespin it also starts to ease you in against fighting other Sith, you know, in preparation for Barney. And they're great enemies. Though maybe not the brightest. When you've totally slaughtered a lot of stormtroopers and thugs, you run into Tavian. Oh, she's gonna get it now.
What?
You still don't know, do you? Dasan followed you to the Valley of the Jedi. Even now, hundreds of Dasan's loyal followers are drinking deeply from the Valley's power, becoming...
Stop talking!
I just love how angry Kyle is. Hard to think this guy turns into a Jedi trainer, eh? The problem here, however, is that boss fights now are not that different from regular Sith encounters. Bosses just have more health, basically. No real special tactics required, nor does this switch it up in any way.
Don't! Mercy!
The kind of mercy you showed Jan?
She lives! I can tell you where she is!
What? You mean my whole Jan montage was for nothing? I spent minutes on that! Seriously, keeping Jan alive does not contribute anything to the story, really. Well, more on that later. Tavian spill where the Sun's Star Destroyer is located, so Kyle lets the whiny bitch go.
Get out of my sight.
What?
And now Kyle begins to super obviously redeem himself by not raising his voice again. Ugh. Let's see what Jaden is up to. Well then, the second act of Jedi Academy. Since we were good boys and went to Hoth, we now have 5 new missions to go through. Let me give you the highlights. They suck. Now, let me give you the specifics. Beginning with Narkrita. It's a mission where you have to escort out prisoners, but the fuck. Is that a Rancor? Answer, yes. Good idea. Rancors are big and scary. It's just too bad that the mission have you freeing prisoners and escorting them and whatnot. Seriously, let the prisoners out, escort them, rinse and repeat. The Rancor is supposed to be the threat of the level, but he goes after you so slow you don't really have anything to worry about. I don't even know why I'm talking about this. Let's take a look at another mission. And I'm gonna be honest here, it's actually a fairly interesting one. The Zoom. And to be frank, it's really the most original mission here. It's a one-off concept, and it doesn't even have bombs. As fast as you land on the Imperial garrison at the Sun, you're ambushed.
Drop your laser sword, Jedi.
And you know, it's actually called a lightsaber. Enter Rax Yoris. Jedi Outcast had Rilo Baruch. Jedi Academy have Rax Yoris. Because every game needs at least one fat guy. Now, this fatso imprisons you and impounds your weapons. But then he lets you out because he wants to hunt you for sport. So you get a pretty cool level here where you can't rely on your saber, and you have to collect weapons and ammunition instead. And now and again Rax interrupts the level by trying to kill you, which is a perfect time to grab an ATST. And it seems that Rax's fat is able to absorb 15 shots from an ATST. Eventually you run into him for the third and final time, and you're given a little boss fight against the man of fat himself. He has a weapon that's actually not from Jedi Outcast. The Stalker concussion rifle. Well, that's a great piece of weaponry right there. That weapon shoots beams of insanity. It was constructed by Trandoshan in the late... Yeah, thanks! The battle have you jumping up platforms till you eventually can get a clear shot of Rax. Yeah, Rax can walk off 15 shots from an ATST, but he dies from 3 Stormtrooper rifle shots. Well, when Rax bites the dust, you pick up your lightsaber and the level ends. Now, I could have done without the whole clunky ATST segment, but aside from that, and maybe the scripted interruptions, the rest of the level do have some pretty sweet level design, and it's somewhat fun. Let's talk about a level that's the exact opposite. Sonia 5, which is the worst level in this fucking game. And by now that's saying a lot. You guys know me, I love to talk about level design, and this level have none whatsoever. It's so boring. I'm sorry for saying shit about Hoth's vast empty areas. That's fucking brilliant compared to this stupid hallway of rocks. Also, herein lies one of the big issues with Jedi Academy. All the things Academy have deemed important to add to this game is so fucking minor. Riding a tauntaun and riding a bike are fucking minigames, and given, not very good ones. They are clunky and a bitch to control. Yeah, I think we've earned ourselves a story mission now. And this time around, Luke wants you and Kyle to see if the bad guys have gone to Darth Vader's old stronghold on Yun. Which they have. Yun is a planet with acid rain, making me regret that I didn't choose a female character. Because if I had, I would have witnessed this. Now this is better than softcore porn. Jennifer Hale sure makes everything better. These games included. This is probably the first time ever in a Jedi Knight game that the person you're escorting is useful. And that's of course due to the guy being Kyle Katarn. Though I guess Kyle is escorting Jaden, really. Much like Hoth, Yun is pretty big thanks to big empty areas. After some stormy killing and a small turret section, you get inside the stronghold however. And the levels do become more well connected here. And once inside, you and Kyle split up time to cover more ground. But that makes me wonder a bit. Because the reasoning for a Padawan to be going on missions is that he's given minor tasks, and if it's something dangerous, Kyle has to go with him. But Kyle always have an excuse to fuck off for 5 minutes till you finish an area or sometimes a whole damn level.
Oh, did I miss something?
Inside of the stronghold you also meet a Sith who uses 2 lightsabers. Spoiler alert, you will get that option too. I wonder if this is meant to do that whole design thing with the foreshadowing and whatnot. Or just to show it exists. Because this guy is not particularly strong or anything, so it doesn't quite have the same effect. Anyway, at the end of Yun you meet Rush again, and it turns out he's with the dark side now. So finally you get to kill the bastard. I hope. Now this boss battle is a bit more original than the Tavion fight from Outcast. Here, Rush have 2 reborns that helps him fight. And you have to kill one of them first, because he is healing Rush during the battle. And when they're all defeated, you sadly can't kill Rush. Yeah, I'm as broken up as you are.
Oh. Did you really think I would give up my new apprentice so easily?
Tavion.
Oh my god. It was Tavion all along. Yeah, the broad who shot Jaden in the face with her scepter in the beginning was Tavion. She's the main villain in this game, because she was so cool in Jedi Outcast.
Don't! Mercy! Because I'm not brave enough to die!
Well, she's at least 500 times hotter in this game. Just as much of a cunt though. She throws some rocks at Kyle and Jaden, and then she leaves. Kyle and Jaden also escape and we finally get the last mission list. But first we need to pick out some new sabers. We can pick between Duel Sabers and a staff, or just to keep at it with a single saber. Now this looks pretty major, right? Picking whatever saber you'd like. Well, it's not that different. Duel Sabers are just like regular sabers really. The controls are the same but the range a bit longer. And this is as good of a time as any to mention that the single saber in Outcast and Academy both use 3 stances you can pick between. Blue stance have super fast and super weak slashes. Yellow stance have medium okay slashes. And the red stance is slow and have super strong slashes. For the most part in these games you can only use the yellow stance. In Outcast you get the blue stance relatively late, and in Academy you pick a new stance after half. I do like that Academy gave you that option sooner than Outcast did. The Duel Sabers however are like the single sabers blue and yellow stance. The Duel Sabers do not have a red stance, and that's pretty much the best one. And a staff or double saber in my opinion is just madness. It's kind of like the yellow stance I guess, but there are some parts that ruin it. Also, more on that later. So let's take a look at the new missions we now have. Starting with Ord Mantell. And it's another bomb mission! Fuck! Is that Baba the Hutt? I remember when you were inside a Sarlacc. Good times. Books likes to change things. Anyway, this level have you blowing up weapon caches. But this time around you're hunted by no other than Boba Fett instead. He's kinda cool after all. He's immortal basically, but given enough damage he turns around. Or it's just randomly. Fuck if I know. When you've blown up all the weapon caches, you get a little boss fight against him. And I have to say, Boba Fett is probably the best boss battle in this game. Mostly because he has his own pattern that he doesn't share with other enemies. He have a standard E11 Stormtrooper rifle, a jetpack and a flamethrower. Which makes him rather unique, because when bosses in these games are Sith, it's usually just the same as any other enemy with a lightsaber. But with more health and do more damage. So credit where credit is due. Thus far, Jedi Academy have the best boss battles. Now, let's take a look at Yalaran.
Leave this place.
Okay, now we can finally do the story mission on Taspir. But first, let's compare the second acts of Jedi Outcast and Jedi Academy. Now, what I call the second act of Jedi Academy is pretty much the biggest part of the game. And Jedi Outcast's second act is smaller, but it had 2 of my favorite planets. And if you didn't realize it in the first part of this comparison, this point system is fucked. So I'm gonna give a point to Jedi Outcast because it's the superior game. So you can bet your ass it will get a point in the next segment too, because I'm a yerk. Now to give some kind of motivation here, all the shitty levels that Jedi Academy have just went up against the best Jedi Outcast has to offer. So, who knows, maybe if Jedi Academy's third act is super awesome, it might get a point in the next round? But first, let's take a look at the third and final act of Jedi Outcast. Kyle has now made his way to Cairn, the docking bay Admiral Faya and the Sun Star Destroyer is located at. And this is actually where the game slowly starts going downhill. Though it begins alright with some of them beloved puzzles and whatnot. And Kyle even runs into Luke.
Kyle, Skywalker, what are you doing here?
Lando told me where you were going.
They're both here to stop the sun, so they team up for a minute. And it's awesome to get to slaughter Sif Spit together with Luke. Together you kill some reborns and whatnot till it's time for Luke to fuck off on his own.
May the Force be with you, Kyle.
Now there's one room in particular that's very basic level design wise, which at this point really stands out in this game. A room where you basically just have to go up and down an elevator and press buttons. But it's just one room and it does not make Cairn in its entirety dull. There is also an incredibly out of place stealth segment here, where you don't get to approach the enemy troops. Yeah, let's just go to console here and yep. Perfect. If you get caught though, you're treated to one of the coolest game over screens ever. Well, okay, maybe that was out of place too. You can sneak up on people and eavesdrop on their conversations, by the way.
Over here.
What have you been doing all this time? Looking the other way?
Never had a frontline assignment.
The whole galaxy is the front line now. We aren't waging a full-scale war here. We're hitting the Republic
Is
anywhere we
someone
can.
there?
You can do that all the time in this game, but this felt like a good time to bring it up, because it feels like that's more of a stealth game element than anything else. It's used to add a sense that stuff is always happening around you. This is not true. Enemies do not spawn before you've entered a trigger point. But being able to sneak up on people just going about their daily chores is something that do add to the game. So Cairn as a whole is like Raven Software going, "We should make the next Metal Gear Solid game now! And then precisely afterwards continue the normal gameplay!" It's weird. Oh well, after a while you notice some new armors laying about, and it turns out that those crystals have finally been put to use. Shadow Troopers! Basically Sif with whoa, I have the blue stance now? Why didn't anybody tell me? Oh. Well, who the fuck reads that? I hate having text giving me information or shit, when you can just have the game tell it to me in an interesting way instead. This is a nitpick though, but it kinda destroys a lot as it deprives my ability to fully enjoy the game. Or maybe I should just stop being a lazy American and actually read stuff shoved in my face. Eventually you find the Star Destroyer Doomgiver. The Zaan's Star Destroyer, but as fast as you enter you notice that the Zaan is not in that ship. He is fighting with Luke. And wouldn't you know it, the ship takes off. Luke contacts Kyle and says he wants him to contact the Rogue Squadron to blow up the ship. That's as good of an objective as any. So here starts the Doomgiver missions on the Star Destroyer that's so big you need a damn tram. Cairn was very long. You do have content filled to a T, but it gets rather tiresome. And when you've entered the Doomgiver, it's basically the same environment. By now I am kinda tired of the color grey. Speaking of repeating themes, Bespin had an R5 unit to escort, and here you get to steer one, much like the mouse at Kijim. Basically just something to keep it fresh, as these levels have been going on for a while now. And I also notice here that I now have the red stance. I should start reading these. Doomgiver have a lot of hangars, by the way. The hangars are basically just the same rooms copy-pasted 10 times in a row.
Oh yeah. Oh, this looks good. Oh yeah. Yeah, just gonna. Yep. There we go. Oh, more.
And hey, do you remember that room I disliked for pressing 2 buttons and going up and down an elevator? Well, this is 500 times worse. You have to jump between bridges and enter rooms to look for the right codes, and by God, it's boring. When you have all the codes, you can contact Rogue Squadron to come by and shoot down the Doomgiver. But first, you have to destroy a generator. But not before you get to see an hilarious scene.
Hey, it's okay. I'm happy to see you too.
I thought you were dead.
I still don't see the point in her being alive, by the way. She kinda says that the son is headed for the Jedi Academy though, and that he probably intends to destroy that shit or something along those lines. Which means Kyle have to destroy the ship before they get a chance. But then Galak Fayar shows up and reveals he's a Decepticon! Here you get a boss fight that's not a Sith fight. Galak has a force field that he turns off now and again, and that's when you have to wail on him. Killing him doesn't start a cutscene or anything, he just falls down. Now, after the battle you have to backtrack. But just as I said before at Kajim, Jedi Outcast makes backtracking interesting. This time, since the generator kinda got destroyed and Rogue Squadron is shooting down the ship, you have to escape through a part of the level with no gravity. Eventually you run into Yan again, where, for some reason, the gravity works just fine. They escape and crash land on the swamps of Yavin 4. The dullest place in the galaxy! Now, I regret wishing for a new environment, because here are the worst levels in Jedi Outcast. Really, you have no fucking idea where to go, because there's fog everywhere, and even if there was no fog, you wouldn't have a clue anyway, as the path you're supposed to take is so incredibly well hidden! These levels suck! Fuck, this level is better! This level is better! Even okay, let's not over-exaggerate here. And then suddenly, out of nowhere, Jedi Outcast introduces an ATSD segment. How fucking out of place ain't that? We're at the end of the game and you introduce a new mechanic. The fuck? Did the fucking producers take over the game at this point? Ah, fuck it. You eventually end up in Jedi Academy, and this is at least cool. It's full-on war between Jedis and Sith. The Academy is in ruins and fighting Siths do make for great visuals and a nice feel. It really gives you the sense of war between two factions, especially since you've been here before and know how it used to look. After a while, Kyle sees the son who has found a hidden stairwell which he runs down for the final level. Well, it's sadly not the worst level, but it's sure as fuck the weirdest. It's an underground temple, and somehow the son has the ability to fuck with your mind here. He shows up in mirrors and there's stupid puzzles. Random puzzles. Go through walls random. Nothing in this temple is ever explained, by the way, which makes it even more of a mindfuck. If I had to guess, Luke put his academy right on top of a Force Nexus. The level in itself is almost as small as the first Jedi Academy level. It leads you through the dumb puzzles till you end up in a giant room with a beam.
Join me. You know in your heart that you'll never truly be one of them.
Maybe, maybe not. But I know I won't be alone. How about you, Desan? Even now, after all this pain, it's not too late. Come, join us.
You sweet fool!
The final battle is okay. The son is very strong and can kill you pretty easily, and you can actually kill him pretty easily too. But if so, you have to use the environment. You can activate the unexplained beam of the level that does something, and you can destroy pillars to make them fall on the son. That's probably the easiest way to kill him. I love different options for killing bosses, but this way kinda make the build-up and everything, yeah, anticlimactic. The son snoozes into death and Kyle runs out, probably through the stupid puzzles again, and runs to his formerly dead lady friend Janos to get himself some of that ass.
Look, I'm not saying I'm ready to join the academy or anything like that.
Yeah, precisely, don't say it. Don't do it. So that's Jedi Outcast. What the fuck happened?